Hello everyone, welcome to another live meeting with the core team of Zel. We're here to talk about a few things. It's going to be quite a long meeting. Next slide. So we're touching on ZelFlux, some updates, maybe answering some of the questions of what ZelFlux actually is as well. We're also talking about the upcoming network upgrade and our plans and timelines for that. Talking about V3, a review, some screenshots, and the timeline for release on ZelCore V3. Daniel will provide us with some Zel Labs updates, as well as marketing and listing updates, as well as progress in the department of the foundation. And finally, we'll have some roadmap updates to sort of show us through the rest of this year. Present on the meeting, we have myself, Miles, Parker, Daniel, Lumi, and Tadeusz. So the recent ZelCore update with version 2.2.5 and 2.1.0 on desktop and mobile respectively, codename Starlight, included a few different things, including the ontology network, both ONT and ONG were added, as well as gas claiming. A new ERC20 was added, DMME, InstaSwap, which is a quick exchange that supports Zel, both buying and selling, and then various other fixes and updates as well. Daniel, do you want to talk a little bit about InstaSwap and how that all came together?
Yeah, Miles, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, so InstaSwap was added, and we are working with these guys on a couple different features. The one thing that you will notice is they do have unlimited buy and sell for Zel, which was important, but it also put the pressure on other vendors as well to get Zel and their amounts increased. So we're working with CoinSwitch as well to get them up there as well. But welcome to InstaSwap team, and we look forward to working with them on some of the other projects that they have coming up in the space as well.
Back to me, and I'll talk about V3. It's coming soon. It's been in the works since I think early June this year. So just a couple screenshots and an overview. The cleaned up UI, it's been rebuilt in many places, and some of the UI kits and elements we've been using have been replaced with fresher, modern, unified ones. So just a general cleanup. So this is a screenshot of desktop, which now includes a new smaller mobile view. And next slide, please. This is the cleaned up Exchange UI and user experience. We're working really on simplifying things, making it easier to use and easier to access. Had some of the feedback that the Exchange interface was a little bit complex, so we've took it down and cleaned it up a little bit. What's not shown here is the new coin overview, which is still getting tweaks here and there. You would have seen it on Discord for those that are paying attention and keep an eye on things there. But we're looking forward to a release in the next few weeks. Currently, it is in the hands of beta testers. If you'd like to be a beta tester, feel free to just reach out to me in my DMs or just ask in Discord, and you'll probably get accepted if you're an active community member. And yeah, V3 has been something that Lumi has spent a lot of time working on. And it's also going to include what was already released to ZelCore, but further changes to full node and improvements. It includes general stability improvements, extra features, easier sort of use of features that already exist as well, bring them into one place through the new coin overview. Much snappier as well and quicker. Just general all-around improvements. Really looking forward to getting it out. Sort of shows where we want ZelCore to be, and be a good starting point for us moving into the next year. So I'll continue with the upcoming Zel network upgrade, which we're currently codenaming Otter, I believe. So it's going to include ZelFlux, Benchmark D, an upstream to at least latest Zcash 2.0.7-3. I'll get back to that in a second. Fixes and improvements to block submission and other functions that have been reported by our dedicated pool operators. Raspberry Pi compatibility has been improved. That's thanks to Jules, who runs Coin Blockers. He was playing around with it on a Raspberry Pi 4 and managed to find some ways to actually get a super node started, I think. Or was it a basic? It might have been a basic. It was a basic on his Raspberry Pi 4. As well as various fixes and improvements. Planned activation will be the first half of November. We're just getting the last few lines together and last few pieces in place before handing over to testers and getting testnet up and running again. So we'll look to have that live, hopefully 7th of November, going into the 15th, around there. Binaries and various ZelCore and ZelMate updates will be released in the next 2 to 3 weeks as well. We'll be releasing more information on Discord, Twitter, etc. Medium will have a full article explaining the network upgrade and what's next. But the real exciting part is actually ZelFlux and Benchmark D, which Park will be talking about with Todayish in just a moment. Ooh, and one more thing, sorry, before we move on. There was a disclosed Zcash vulnerability recently. So that was patched in their 2.0.7-3 release. We have that merged and a PR has been raised and it's to be released. No user funds are at risk or anything like that. In short, there's the potential ability to tie IP addresses to Z addresses in rare cases and instances. But still something that could be detrimental to privacy. So great that the Zcash team, well, there's actually a team of researchers that found it, and the Zcash team got a fix out so quickly. And we look forward to continuing sticking lockstep with them in their development, both privacy and improvements to functionality as well. Zel Labs, I'll hand over to Daniel for a talk about our Skunks works of recent.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, Miles. I can finally use my Raspberry Pi, so that's good. You made me happy tonight. Zel Labs project updates. We're continuing to really push on the Zel Labs aspect of the project. If you haven't read the new white paper by Haven, it talks about Zel using the Haven using the decentralized computational network for the Haven oracles. So check it out. We're also working on the additional asset layer for Neo. We want to look at adding more of the assets into the ZelCore platform. We also want to do due diligence around the Neo and Ontology DApp platforms. And there could be a day where you open ZelCore up and you might see a Neo or Ontology DApp in there, and which could be really cool. We're going to continue to look at the Raven asset layer and development on adding Raven tokens or being able to create Raven tokens right in ZelCore, which would really be awesome. And then we also talked about the ontology gas claiming. And one of the things that we are going to be adding as well is with our partnership with Proof of Review, we'll be adding in V3 or V3 point whatever, what is it, Miles, 0.02 or whatever, you'll see the next phase of Proof of Review added into ZelCore as well, so that you'll be able to see all those reviews right in one spot.
Yep.
And we're going to continue our work with the Coin Plan team and ongoing development around their Fabrics products and also their curated portfolio console as well. Next slide. So one thing I'm really excited we want to talk a little bit about is Zel Labs pools, and you may have been seeing some of this. We haven't really announced it officially, but we'll talk a little bit about it tonight. So Zel Labs pools is an addition to Zel Labs and what we're already doing. So our goal has always been to mine, hold, and trade in ZelCore. So this adds Zel Labs and what Zel Labs is doing around the opportunity to incubate and accelerate smaller projects. So we have in the past several weeks, really put some focus on Zel Labs pools. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Next slide. So this is the Zel. If you're mining on the what used to be the community pool, which is now the Labs pool, you'll notice that the UI looks a lot different. Big shout out to Crypto Wrench and his team for some of the work that they've done on that. But as we were developing this UI and we were talking about this and really thinking about long term, we wanted the opportunity to be able to develop this for other pools. So this Zel is benefiting from it and the nice UI, but we wanted to be able to benefit other proof of work projects as well, because we have a real affinity with small projects, proof of work. And we want to make sure that we can help them where we can. Next slide. So what is Zel Labs pools? We announced it. We launched our first Zel, the first Zel pool. That was a very successful move. It's going to be on micro pools. It's going to help new projects to develop and grow. It will be part of the incubation acceleration model, as we talked about earlier, geared toward proof of work based projects. So we currently have 8 pools that we're working with and have started, and we have more slated to be added. Currently, we have Zel, RTM, BTZZ, Raven, Pexa, Arrow, Zer, Gen X, and more. So we're going to continue to keep adding these micro pools in. Future plans include to add node monitoring. If you have Zel nodes and you want to monitor it all in one place, you're going to be able to do that directly out of the console for Zel Labs. We want to increase the UI and UX development. And we want to also partner with projects to develop rapid pool deployment for ZelFlux. So one of the things we're going to talk about with ZelFlux is being really honestly a gateway to stand up infrastructure. So one of the things that we thought about almost immediately was what does that look like and who can use it and how would it work and how can we benefit other projects. So you can see us possibly developing and working with other projects to develop that rapid pool deployment. All proceeds from the pool fees go back to the project for revenue generation, and it will also give us the ability to create a liquidity access, or what we call dark pools, to enable ZelX development. These are clean catch coins, so essentially we can as the pools grow, it will create liquidity pools for these particular projects for exchanges. And eventually, as we look at ZelX and what we're going to do with ZelX, this could be a very important piece of it. Next slide. It's still me, so I'm just going to keep going, guys. So we're talking a little bit about the marketing team and what's happening. So we're getting up there in YouTube subscribers. Last time I posted this, we only had 512. We're well up over 800. I think we're getting close to 900. We really want to get to that 1,000 subs, because that gives us the opportunity to begin to monetize the YouTube channel as well. Next slide. So a lot of people have asked, season 2 is getting ready to start for the core. So we have a whole slate of guests lined up. And what we were going to do is, with the core especially, is break this into different seasons. The ongoing of two days a week or whatever, that's very daunting, and we want to make sure that we get good quality individuals for the core. We want to make sure that it's around the development of the project, but we also want to highlight other projects that are developing, and especially right now as we're going through a really building cycle, it's very difficult for us to schedule such rapid core podcasts. So we're going to do this in seasons. We're going to do, I would say, probably 10 to 15. Goose could probably talk more about that at some point in time, but I think we're going to keep it to like 10 or 15. That'll be a season, and then we'll take a small break, and then we'll get going again. Next slide. So I know there's been a lot of talk about marketing and development, and immediately when people see a down market, they always want to go back to, what are we doing for marketing? What are we doing to gain new users? What are we doing to and I've seen the term new blood coming into the space. It's absolutely imperative in a project that you're continuing to build and develop the technology to be sensible about the things that you're doing. So we are continuing to develop our marketing plan behind the scenes, and we've worked really, really hard on it. the market overall, I think, has been very depressed. So it doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but there is. So we've ongoing Twitter engagements and development for new use case and user education. One of the big focuses we want to put on the next several weeks and months is how do we get ZelCore in the hands of new users? How do we make it elementary, and how do we get out to those individuals who probably have never used a crypto wallet before, and we want them to have a good first experience, and that's going to be around V3 and the release of V3, and then we're going to make sure that we address those new users. We were over 1.2 million engagements on both Twitter accounts. So Zel and ZelCore has moved over a total of 6,000 users. We've given away over 500 ZelCore Plus giveaways with exchanges and partners over the past, I'd say, month or so. And we've seen some really successful campaigns come out of that. New users that were added to the platform, new followers that were added on Twitter, high level of engagement from the exchanges that we worked with, the new ones coming in, and so on and so forth. One of the things we're working on now is a beta for the Google AdWords campaign. So we want to look at targeting those new users. We want to look at AdWords and specifically get the ZelCore and ZelFlux platforms out in just basic standard engines. Make sure that that's coming to the top of the search results. And we want to just kind of expand that so that when people go and they look for blockchain wallet or crypto wallet or things like that, we're going to make sure that we're up there. We want to also work on development of a new feedback process from in V3 0.01 or whatever it is. We want to work on a feedback process so people can provide information spontaneously when they feel that it's valuable. Sometimes Discord can be very, very noisy, and we lose very good suggestions. So we want to make sure that we actually get those captured, and we're able to actually use those. We're also going to create a standard voluntary email platform or an opt-in. Now this goes back to us focusing on users that are less than tech savvy. They want to get into crypto. They want a wallet. Email is still their primary source of news and updates, and we want to work on getting some kind of email platform set up together so that people can get new information about what's happening with Zel. We're working on improved pitch decks. So we do have a private pitch deck that was kept for us as we went through our VC vetting last year, but we want to make sure that we develop this pitch deck that's a more advanced pitch deck that can be provided to partnerships and higher level investors, especially with ZelFlux coming into the arena and some of the partnerships that we want to look at developing that platform out on. We want to make sure that we have a real easy, succinct pitch as we talk to individuals. We should be able to explain what ZelCore is, what Zel is, what ZelFlux is fairly quickly, and this is going to help us as a community to be able to explain those things. We want iterative development on the marketing plan. So people have been very focused in on additions to exchanges, which we'll talk about here later in the meeting. But we want the marketing plan is iterative. And if you have suggestions and they're creative, bring them in to Discord, DM me, DM Parker, and we'll add you into the marketing team, and you guys can all help. We've seen a lot of success from people that are getting motivated. I want to remind everybody, this is a community project. This is not, we do not work for ourselves. We work for the community. So all of us working together is going to help share exactly what Zel is and exactly what ZelCore is, and so on and so forth. And we also want to go do an ongoing partnership with our use case development around Labs. Labs has a ton of value, and we've realized very quickly how quickly we can work with other projects to do co-marketing, co-branding, development of their platform along with our platform. And a lot of projects in this space are working on the exact same thing. And where you can capitalize those synergies, those opportunities, that's important. So our new real focus is on education, exposure, and development. Looking at, how do we get ZelCore in the hands of new users, and how do we continue to bolster what we're doing already? So lots of input coming from that. We expect a As I said, it's going to be an iterative development with the marketing plan. I would imagine sometime in Q4, you're going to see an updated marketing plan, and you will be able to review it then. Okay, the Zel community update. Next slide. This is a reminder only. This isn't a news slide. We talked about this in the past. So I just want to say this to anybody that has missed the last live meeting or has missed our talk about the community. There's been a lot of questions about larger exchanges and increased marketing campaigns. All of these things can happen, but they have to have community participation. So whether you're donating your talent and your time or your funds or your resources to help us, we can continue to go as fast as what the community is willing to help us with. So foundational funds will not be spent on those particular types of items, such as exchange listings, marketing plans, things like that. These are very specific things. The foundation was developed and locked up specifically for the development of the project. And thank God we did, because we've been able to continue to keep developing even through these bear markets. So, and for the foreseeable future, we're going to keep grinding it out. There's 4 distinct donation categories: marketing, exchange listing, development, and a coffee and beer. I will tell you the marketing fund's being used. The development fund is being used. We had one donor that put a nice sum of Zel in there, which was we're very appreciative of that, because that really helped us push Flux rapidly by helping to fund additional resources that we needed to get to the next level. We have a very strong, vibrant community. Even in a down cycle, we still have people that care about the project. They want to see the project developed. They want to see donational raises. They want to see us continue to succeed. So if you're sitting there and you're questioning, how do we get more marketing? How do we get exchange listings? How do we get development? And how do I buy Dan, Miles, and Parker and Tadeus and Lumi a beer? Well, this is how you do it.
This is where it gets fun.
Yeah, so this is Parker. I'll be going over some of the ZelFlux and ZelNodes progress that we've had so far. This will also act as kind of an introductory to ZelFlux as an idea, and also the actual, what we're calling the open source operating system for ZelNodes. We've put out some Medium articles and talked in Discord about ZelFlux here and there, but we are still, we'll use this live meeting and then future Medium articles and other publications to keep the information about ZelFlux getting out to the community and outside of the community also. So this will kind of act as the first major discussion about ZelFlux in a live meeting. So for that, we'll do a quick overview of ZelNodes and Flux. I'm sure a lot of people in the community already know this, but this will be for new people coming in wondering what ZelNodes and Flux are. So ZelNodes are enterprise grade hardware that people from the community run. They are the operators, and they're incentivized by receiving portions of each Zel block found by the miners. There are 3 tiers of ZelNodes, kind of a small, medium, and large hardware requirements and collateral requirements. And currently, of the 3 tiers, there's over 1,000 computational nodes running on the network. And then one way to visualize the ecosystem is if ZelNodes are the physical hardware, the computers, the servers, the locked up Zel, then Flux is the operating system, which will run on all the ZelNodes and allow them to run the applications, the Docker apps, the side chains on the decentralized network, and also communicate with each other to be able to kind of share real-time information back and forth about things like resources, latency, if a single app is getting bogged down by heavy usage and we need to stand up more instances of that app or Docker, anything like that. Along with Flux is a secondary daemon, which Miles called Benchmark D, or we're calling Benchmark D. It's a secondary daemon that's going to be actively checking the physical hardware. So Zel operators know there's benchmarking done when you first stand up a node. This will be similar to that, but actively running at discrete time points to kind of dynamically assess the network, and make sure people are, one, just running consistent hardware, that it's not fluctuating, we don't have outages, but also it will have the nice secondary usage of kind of helping to catch some people that might not be following the rules. Um, and then Flux as a whole, being across all of these nodes, the main goal is to be able to host the application, obviously, but also to be able to provide the hardware needed that a developer of the application needs in, almost real time. So they'll know, if someone makes an app, they'll know roughly how many users they have at that time and be able to, pay for a certain amount of hardware, but they want to be able to scale quickly because, there's no knowing on their part how many users can just come in from, one good promotion or something like that. So the idea behind Flux is to be able to scale anything pretty much that runs on the network very quickly. So this is a little bit more in depth about what Flux is, more aimed kind of at the developers, the potential community developers. So Flux is being built as an MEVN stack, MongoDB, Express, Vue, and Node.js. It'll be able to run JavaScript and other Dockerized apps on the Zel node hardware via Flux. It is open source, and we do encourage community developers to suggest and commit different changes as Flux grows and starts getting towards its final product that will run across all the Zel nodes. One nice thing about Flux is that it does give a front-end web page to each node, and so the Zel node operator, can actually log in via ZelCore into this front-end web page, and through there they can update both Flux and the Zel daemon right there, which is going to I think, drastically make it easier for people to update their nodes. As most operators know, we put out updates fairly regularly and quickly, which can be a little bit of a pain having to log in and do everything through something like Putty. So this should make it even easier for operators to stay up to date and keep the network chugging along. So the Zel node operators are required to run Flux in the benchmarking software. Not really much has changed from the operator standpoint. It's just going to be the things that people have been expecting to be running on the network anyway. And the installation, the first time installation of Flux will be done through scripts, just like all the other updates and installations. So it should be pretty easy for people to get the first install done, and then they'll be able to update through the web page for their server. And like I said, benchmarking will be done at different time intervals to confirm the hardware requirements. And that is going to be relayed back to the network, and the network will decide if everybody is complying to kind of the requirements for each tier of nodes that they're running. There will be some leeway built in. Sometimes a computer just gets overburdened and they might fail benchmarking once. That will be built in so that you don't nothing will change, nothing drastic or anything like that. So a BAMF will stay a BAMF with some leeway to allow for some flukes. So this is a rough timeline of what the progression has been for Flux. So Trunk has built pretty much all of this from scratch to make it, one, completely how we have envisioned it to run for Zel, the Zel ecosystem, but also gives the ability to quickly add features going forward, since it's all very familiar code to our development team. So we have the front and back end done. So that would be the web page to be able to log into the server, the back end services to handle what you see on the web page. There's also API services, which will make more sense with the Zel daemon integration. So pretty much anything you can do in a full node wallet, you can do using commands in the URL. So anything from validate an address to checking your sync status to getting just the general info of the blocks, things like that can all be done through a web page instead of having to log into your server. And then another piece that's complete is being able to log in via ZelCore using your Zel ID. You'll see a video at the end. It'll be a little bit more self-explanatory, but it's a very cool feature. The benchmarking daemon is currently in testing thanks to Blonde Frogs. And what's currently being built right now is communications between the nodes. So that's what local and network means in this instance, is that your local node will be able to communicate with nodes in other places, every different geographic locations anywhere across the entire Zel network. The network and remote launching of applications in Dockers is in progress. Things like scheduler, resource manager, to be able to, a node will be able to decide if it's being over or under worked and can put out for more work, or it needs help from other nodes. Obviously, the system to be able to purchase this type of hardware for someone, they want to host a website or they want to run a small Docker app, things like that. We're working on both the economics and the actual dashboard or module that'll be available to purchase that computing power on the decentralized network. And then some things that will more than likely be in future iterations of ZelFlux, because this is a very large undertaking. But there will likely be the ability to host domain names and point them dynamically to different servers. So a developer will have the ability to, both have a web page, but also use the backend services they need to process their application. Hoping to have a standardized Dockerization process so people can write apps in different languages, but still have a standard Docker application that can be deployed across the network. Things like dynamic load balancing and app backend scaling, which is pretty normal for trying to keep a network up and running and keeping it efficient. We have the governance and the basic rules for apps on network, which will be discussed with the community. We have to toe that line between keeping it very open to as many third-party developers as possible without explicitly breaking the law in a way that would, from a developer standpoint, but we don't want to be on the hook for somebody developing something that is just grossly inappropriate or anything like that that could really get the network in some hot water. As the operators now currently know, we allow both v4 and v6 IP addresses. And anybody who knows a little bit about networking knows that they're kind of two separate internets. So we have things that we need to bridge together so that they can all process applications and deliver to both types of addresses. Again, things like the billing cycle, like I talked about the dashboard, how that's all going to work out for purchasing the power. And then how do we integrate that into ZelCore to things like billing, things like some type of digital marketplace to see what apps are available. Some apps will be able to be interacted with inside ZelCore depending on what type of app it is, things like that. And so this is a video of Flux running the current version. Basically, what you'll see is I'm starting it on my server through PuTTY. It launches the front end web page that I was speaking about earlier. You can log in with ZelCore, and then you can see the different pieces that are integrated, like the daemon, and then some of the Flux information running in the background. So here is the server launching ZelFlux from completely dead. It's pretty quick. Launches the front and back end, and then you can access it through Chrome from anywhere just using the IP address of your node. Brings up the front end website. You can easily log in through your ZelCore. It signs a message using your Zel ID so it knows that you are the person logging in so that other people don't have access like you do. Gives you the general information of the health of your node and the daemon. Lets you know who's logged into your system. Gives you the option to update both Flux and the Zelcache daemon right through the web. As you can see, I am out of date, so I could click that and update, log out, and that's it for ZelFlux. Gives you all those options. And what this is essentially an extremely robust back end to be able to add a lot of features. It's kind of hard to visualize all the work that Trunk and the other devs have put into this, because it's all back end work, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes. And so basically the framework is laid out to start incorporating some of those other in progress items I was talking about, like deploying all the Docker apps and having them managed by themselves on the network, instead of a human or a team or somebody else having to say, okay, I want BAMF 12 to have this app, and BAMF 14 to have this one. It's going to be done dynamically by ZelFlux. So I hope that answers some questions. I'm sure it created some other questions, and I think we'll obviously talk to the community, get those questions, get some answers, and keep writing up articles for Medium and other social media releases, and start developing out a real broad picture of what ZelFlux is and what it's going to be.
If I can just tack on to there, it's like Parker just said, it's going to be an iterative and development process. It's hard to say anything is final with Flux, but in short, there's going to be a lot of development. There's going to be a lot of changes. The economic model, how applications are deployed, definitely won't look the same in 1 year as it will initially. The control of the network and how it's administered is going to change over time. The economic models, the whole ecosystem and the network itself will really develop over the course of months and years as the community around it develops and matures as well. Because there's not just tech here at play, there's arguably socioeconomic politics as well that has to be kind of balanced, and some brinksmanship will be needed, some kind of compromises, and a lot of discussions will be needed on how we can issue a proper governance model put in place a proper governance model and continue and ensure the network continues to develop, but we also have adoption and users, developers utilizing the network, and it continues to grow, keep stable. There's a lot at play here. I don't think anyone thinks it's going to be an easy task, but that was the intention of the project. That's where we're going. We're in our first now steps to really build this computational network unlike anything before, which will be really awesome to see come together over the next few years. I'm super excited for that, and I have to say, great job to Tadeusz on getting those first pieces in place with Flux, to Jeremy for continuing to maintain the Zel source code and continue to improve it, providing Zel bench, the benchmark D, and everyone else. There's too many to really name. So yeah, just a little closing note that I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks and months of releases and development that you'll see from Flux. So we won't just have ZelCore releases anymore on such a regular basis. It will be Flux release on such a regular basis. Next, we'll hand over to, I believe, who wants to take the upcoming roadmap?
I'll take it if you want.
All right, see what it's about. We can kind of discuss it.
So just as Miles was saying about Flux, we have a lot going on right now. This is just kind of a small snapshot of what you can expect coming up. So ZelCore V3 dubbed Project Phoenix. We're looking at a Q3, Q4 release. I will tell you that, Miles, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are already in beta. So our beta testers are already testing the new V3, and I can tell you, I actually am testing, and I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be a really good ad.
Yeah, I'll just touch a little bit more on V3 as I've been working closely with Lumi and the rest of the guys on it. We are now sort of, as Daniel said, in beta testing for desktop, and we're starting to do the work on mobile to get to beta testing. It'll be a much quicker process to get mobile together over the next couple of weeks. And we'll be looking to have more sort of succinct development moving forward between mobile and desktop. And yeah, just looking forward to getting it in people's hands, really. Interesting project name that Daniel came up with, I have to say. Not sure I'm a fan.
You know. I have a habit of naming stuff. So we also Zelnode D benchmarks. We're looking at a November release on that. That'll really kind of go in tandem with as we release ZelFlux. And I think, Miles, and correct me if I'm wrong again, I believe that Flux is actually open source and anyone can see it now. So it's actually out
People
there.
could see, yeah, people can
it.
be able to see the Flux development since day one. It's always been open source. So anyone that wants to take a look at the code, the repository is github.com/zelcache/flux, and you can just take a look. You can even install it now and play around with it if you'd like as well. The README goes into quite a bit of depth in its functionalities, but we will continue to document and sort of put together how-tos, how to utilize the API and all this kind of stuff and documentation over the next couple of weeks.
As
Next,
as Miles, no, I'm going to skip over and you can say it, the ODA network upgrade. So just to kind of dovetail Zelnode D and Flux, they're a tandem piece and they work together. So they'll be released together. I will tell you that, we've got a lot of questions from people in the community about the enforcement of the benchmarking. That will, I believe, Miles, you talked about the ability to have a small period or a grace period for people to cut over, because we do know that we don't want to go day one right blasting into it. This is going to be an iterative process. We're gonna ease our way into it, but there will be at some point where we flip that switch for the benchmarking, and if you're not up to spec, you will not be on the network. So
yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of an iterative process. With benchmark D, so to clear up the names, I think I'll take an opportunity just now. Flux, ZelFlux, is kind of that OS that Parker has just been describing. It was previously called Zelnode D, and really that was kind of the code name for two parts, two separate applications, being Benchmark D and what's now called ZelFlux. So those really do exist together, like Daniel said, and that development of them is going to continue to be iterative. It's going to continue to be sort of symbiotic between them, and you'll see the public release of Zelnode D, the sort of package, which is ZelFlux and Benchmark D, in the Otter network upgrade in November, and that's also going to include various improvements to just the core functionality of Zel.
Okay, and then the last thing we had was we are continuing on our Project Unity completion. If you take a look at the Zel pools, you'll notice that the ad at the top of the pool that's for ZelCore. We're planning on putting that on pretty much anything that's been built or developed by the Zel team is going to be branded. So we're working to bring that all together at Project Unity.
Yeah, to clean that up, earlier this year, really it's just been a back burner project that we just need to have some extra resources to actually execute. It's collecting all and collating all the various explorers backends that we run, bringing them into one easy place to manage and deploy. That should improve our infrastructure, which is pretty good. I think we're above 99% uptime, which is good to have over the last year. But yeah, it's going to allow us to sort of unify everything, hopefully bring some explorers together potentially, add extra tools and functionality to those explorers and services, and make it sort of, really it's just a housekeeping project. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening and joining us. We had a small technical issue. Google had removed Hangouts on air, so we haven't been able to stream this live, but it'll be going up in just a few moments here. And we'll be joining you on Discord for a Q&A after it goes live, and then we'll probably host another one later in the week at a more scheduled time so we can make that. We apologize for the inconvenience of the stream not quite going together. So thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you around Discord, Twitter, and various places. Have a good morning, good evening, or good night. Bye for now.